All right, everybody. Welcome back to the School of Atypical Insights. We've got a very special guest today, Mr. Ben Brown. Ben Brown is the owner of BSL Nutrition, a health coaching company with clients virtually all over the world with their pure science, proven results coaching process. This proprietary process is a paradigm shift from restrictive behaviors to health freedom by leveraging the science of real-world data, the psychology of behavior change, and the art of coaching. It is the convergence of health goals, lifestyle, and sustained success. Ben holds not one, but two master's degrees. The first from Arizona State University in exercise and wellness, with an emphasis in strength and conditioning, and the second from the University of Bridgeport in clinical nutrition. And most importantly, Ben is a husband and father to three young children who provide the daily love, motivation, and humility he uses as a driving force to continue to learn and grow as a man, mentor, and coach. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I should probably update that bio. My kids aren't that young. I mean, they're relatively young, but they're 13, 11, and 7 now, which I don't know. My daughter's a teenager, which is kind of scary.
Wow. Yeah, that's a different game at that point.
She actually, it's funny, she actually just walked in the door. So they just finished school last Thursday. And on Saturday, she went with a group of girlfriends and a couple parents up to Sedona, because we're in Phoenix. They went up to Sedona, which is about an hour and a half north, for like 5 days for this girl's birthday party, which I'm like, that sounds spectacular. Can I go to Sedona for 5 days? And they one of the girls' parents rented like this big mansion, and they had a chef, and it sounded absolutely unreal. So she just walked in the door. There was kind of some screaming and hoopla. I heard the dog jumping around, and but yeah, so kind of scary. She's getting more independent.
Ben, the first question I like to ask all of my guests is this: who are you?
Well, obviously, my name is Ben Brown. I am, as you alluded to in the intro, a husband, a father, a coach, and I'd say maybe just a lifelong learner. So in our business, we help men and women build a better body and create the energy to show up for their families with our pure science, proven results process. And so I've been coaching for over 15, probably close to 20 years now, since I started graduate school for my first master's degree. And I've always been rooted in kind of academia and in health and fitness. And so that lends itself to just being a lifelong learner of everything and anything that I can absorb around helping myself as well as other people get leaner, healthier, stronger, more physically fit, and ultimately develop the freedom in their life to accomplish whatever it is that they want to be able to accomplish.
Beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely love that. And I've known you for a few years now, and I've seen you just do so much greatness with that. And one of the first things we connected on is we actually have a very shared history about our development.
That's right.
Wellness, the health and wellness space. Would you mind sharing with us where you started and how you ended up where you're at now?
Yeah, that's right. I remember how much synergy there was along our path. But like I mentioned, so I've kind of always been interested in health and fitness. I mean, I'm, a child of the 80s. So, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone and Jean-Claude Van Damme and you name it, action sports heroes. I've always wanted to just be jacked and strong and kind of be an action figure. And so I think that drove a lot of young men my age to find their way into the gym, find their way under the barbell. And it's playing sports in high school. So I played, football, ran track, and went to University of Arizona undergrad I did a short stint in Division III for football. Didn't like it, so I played football at Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon, my freshman year. Then I transferred to U of A. I actually played rugby at University of Arizona, and continued my my sports career, if you will, there. Part of the impetus to understand more about health and fitness was by virtue of like my own health issues that I'd been struggling with throughout my childhood. I had a lot of gastrointestinal issues growing up, specifically in high school, that we couldn't really figure out what was going on. A lot of acid indigestion, kind of throwing up a lot of IBS type symptoms. And so I had to be somewhat delicate around my food choices, which invariably made me start to search out solutions, especially when sort of the conventional medicine model couldn't figure it out for me. And I was on a number of different medications and did the whole, what do you call it? The endoscopy, where they put the camera down your throat to try and get a video of your stomach lining, and nothing really was remarkable there. So I spent years and years and years just trying to figure my own stuff out. And by virtue of, through grad school, through, starting my personal training career, just studying with mentors, and I, my grad school was really one of my first mentors. My academic advisor there, we started a strength and conditioning program at Arizona State. After my rugby career at U of A, I went enrolled at graduate school at ASU, studying strength and conditioning and kind of health and wellness, and really just had a lot of good tutelage there around sport performance, strength and conditioning, between the kind of the peers that I had rolled in school with, as well as my mentorship, and made a lot of connections in the industry. Started studying through NSCA, National Strength and Conditioning Association, got certified through their CSCS. This is this is almost 20 years ago. It's kind of crazy.
Wow.
So that, I guess, was in the earlier stages of the CSCS certification process.
Yeah.
But it really was the impetus to just continue to lead a career of studying through different certification bodies, different mentors. And I know we've shared similar mentors along the way to some degree. At one point, I went back to school for a second master's degree, this one in clinical nutrition, because I had really realized the importance of nutrition for myself, the role that kind of functional medicine played in helping me heal myself and some of the gut issues that I had going on, the role of supplementation, and of course, just as an opportunity to continue to understand how to help other people better. And through that process, ended up starting, our coaching business. I was in person for years and years, went online around 2015, and then come COVID, things really started to kind of take off. So it's really just been one long kind of crazy journey of kind of different mentorships, different education platforms, and really just a hell of a lot of learning and practice along the way.
Beautiful story. I love how it started off with, how can I dive into myself? What's going on with me? Where can I learn more about some of these things? Like you said, conventional medicine wasn't really helping you. You're on all sorts of medications, and that seemed to probably be a bit more of a reactive care, not so much of a proactive care, right?
Yeah, very much. It's interesting, Tyler, because I think for us coaches, it's so rooted, what we do is so rooted in who we are. Like you asked me, who am I? Well, I think it's, we're always evolving. And as coaches, we're always evolving. And I've seen this in you, and I've certainly experienced it myself, but it's unusual, to have a 36-year-old man who specializes in working with menopausal women, as an example. I really think that there's this level of experience and wisdom and empathy that is paramount in what it is that we do.
Mhm.
And obviously it's contextual, but that's really just been like my experience and my journey of, as I learn more, I can help more people, but I also can help more people like me. Like, of course, I can still help menopausal women and I can still help 25-year-old athlete. But it's still rooted in like who I really want to help, which frankly is more guys like me. I don't know if that's, similar for you as you kind of work your way through your own experiences or not.
Very similar for me. Yeah, I feel pretty strongly about that. And I find that probably the most fulfilling and rewarding pathway, because if I've been through it, it's so much easier for me to be able to relate to it, to teach it, and to guide it.
Right.
Like, you understand what that journey looks like, and you
Right.
understand the difficulties that come along the way, and you're able to share your own personal wisdom from your own experiences and to help shortcut that time for whoever you're serving. So yeah, I totally resonate with that.
I mean, I think that's what teaching and coaching is.
Yeah.
It's just being able to like relay information in a way that's going to be effectively absorbed for the individual in the most efficient and effective way possible. It's like,
Yes.
we could create a whole, article on how to do something, how to do a deadlift, but I also could give you 3 cues and you could probably create a pull from the floor just as efficiently.
Yep.
So I think there's something to be said about the experience, and then just being able to, having done it yourself.
That's a great analogy you just used, by the way. And when it comes to, like, we're both obviously fitness aficionados too. And you can tell the difference between like a good coach and a great coach by their ability to simplify. I mean, to exactly what you're saying is like, how far can you simplify this process or this explanation? Because somebody who wants to show off or try to prove their knowledge can give you 20 different cues for the deadlift.
Yeah.
Get somebody to do it in 2 or 3 steps. That's going to be the coach you want to go with.
Yeah. I hurt my back a couple weeks ago. Invariably, I think I mentioned this to you, didn't I? We spoke briefly, but I have this nagging sort of low back that my ego tends to get in the way, and I'll end up usually once a year, once every 2 years, doing something stupid and letting my ego take hold and trying to go too big and aggravating my disc. So anyways, I've been training in this commercial gym because I normally train in my garage, but the gym has more machines. I can be more cautious about my movement, still get the stimulus that I need. So I'm watching this younger trainer, and it's just like, it's exactly that. It's like he's having a woman do a step up, and it's just like explaining the exercise and everything that goes into it and why it's so important. And it's like 10 minutes. I'm like, dude, just do the fucking step up already. Like, let her do the exercise. And you're wasting time. You're wasting her time and energy. And it's good. Like, I mean, listen, we all do that. I've been there.
Yep.
I'm sure you've been there, but it's a perfect example.
I see that. Yeah, obviously it happens a lot with new trainers. However, much to my dismay, I see it happen sometimes with like veteran trainers. And oftentimes at the gym I currently go to and other gyms I've been to. And it comes from, I think a lot of it comes from ego on the veteran trainers of like, oh, I want to prove my knowledge base. I want to prove that I'm a good coach. So I'm going to give them 20 different things to think about. I'm going to tell them exactly what's happening in their body. But when you're working with Gen Pop, and especially when you're working with new clients, you want to simplify as much as possible and let them figure it out.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's too much information. It's already a whole new experience for them, moving their body in a certain way. And if you're overloading their mind, they're not going to be able to actually organize their skeleton in a way to effectively do the thing. And then 100%. They're going to be overwhelmed when they leave the session because they're like, wait, what happened? What was going on?
Yep. And then it's just like the ability to, that's, in my opinion, is the ability of a good coach. Is like you said, it's just simplify, almost the coach that isn't really saying much, but just little things how did that feel? What did you observe? Maybe think about this next time. Okay, let's go again. How did that feel? Okay. And then sort of noting, and next time we come back to it, remember last time you said you felt this, let's progress it this way. That's very much the coaching process. At least the way I believe that the coaching process is effective.
I wholeheartedly agree. And let's actually dive into that, because we're both coaches in various regards and have a rich coaching history as well. And by way of what you were sharing before, is like you've had some wonderful mentors along the way in your process of learning through school and outside of it, et cetera. What does mentorship mean to you?
It's almost the expression of knowledge and wisdom in a way that is going to overtly challenge you to step into sort of how you need to learn those faculties. So invariably, a mentor is someone that obviously has been there, they've done that, they know more than you. At the very least, they know how to express their knowledge and wisdom in ways that are perhaps more effective than what you know how to do. That in and of itself would be mentorship. But I also think that a mentor isn't just someone that knows more and is necessarily a teacher, but it's also someone that in some capacity challenges you to leverage that knowledge in a way that's going to make you better in some capacity, help infuse the knowledge in a better way, make it more practical and applicable, which in my mind is the very nature of what a mentor should be able to do. And the ones that I've had, I think that's probably been the biggest differentiator between just having a teacher versus actually having a mentor, someone that you genuinely respect and almost that inadvertently, it may be overtly or not, challenges you to get better.
I like that distinction between mentorship and teacher. And what was coming up for me as you were explaining that is, a mentor is able to impart their wisdom, which I think for the novice or for the mentee is essentially, it still is knowledge. It's wisdom for the mentor, but it's knowledge for the mentee, because once they're able to take in that knowledge and then experience it, practice it, get challenged with it, and then learn from it, then it becomes wisdom for themselves. That's how you
definitely
transmute it into wisdom. I think by way of what you're saying, I agree. Is like the mentor helps you through that process versus teaching might just be, here's information and that's it. But the mentor is going to be a guide for you. They're going to be able to help you along that process. So you actually infuse, that's a word they use that I really enjoyed. You're able to infuse that knowledge and bring that wisdom into your bones, bring it into your DNA.
Yeah.
That's lived experience.
Yeah. And what's interesting is I think on multiple accounts, you don't necessarily know that someone's been a mentor until after the fact. You may not overtly acknowledge that. So it's like, oh, this is my mentor. Like, you are one of my mentors, as opposed to in hindsight being like, now that I understand perhaps the education, the wisdom that they were infusing, now that perhaps it's become wisdom for me, or I've been able to leverage the knowledge that I gleaned from them, I can really understand how much mentorship was really at play, how the actions that they imparted, the information that they imparted on me really were pivotal in my growth. And that to me is mentorship, is how they led me. You said it's almost like that, they're leading me in the right direction. I might be blind to the direction that we're going. I just know I need to go that way, but they're kind of guiding it, helping me around some of the obstacles that invariably are going to lie in my path. I might not even see them. But now that I can look back, I'm like, holy shit, look at all those potholes that they drove me around. So I can look back and be like, yeah, he was definitely a mentor. And now I didn't appreciate it at the time, but now I'm like, wow, like that actually made a really big difference in my life. And that definitely has been the case for me in terms of looking back and being like, okay, like there have definitely been a handful of people whom I didn't appreciate at the time, but I really appreciate now.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I've had several in my life too, where I had some distance from it, and I was like, oh, you know what? That person actually was a mentor. Yeah. Sometimes we might seek out a mentor for that sole purpose of like, I would like a mentor in whatever I'm learning. But other times they come into our lives unbeknownst to us, and that's the role that they fill. And yeah, we don't know until sometime after.
Which is beautiful part
It's so
about the
beautiful.
process.
Yeah, I think it's a very like sacred relationship. It can be, and it's something for anybody in any field. If you're looking to really dive into whatever skill or concept or idea or expertise that you desire, having a mentor is going to be a game changer in actually understanding what that thing is.
I agree with you. I mean, I think it's the fastest. And perhaps there's maybe some differentiation required between a mentor and a coach, but nonetheless, um, big picture, it's this fastest route from
Yes.
where you are now to where you want to go.
I do have another question I want to ask you, which came up while we were having this conversation. Based on what we were saying before, as far as like, there's some trainers out there, some coaches who might try to, and this goes for other spaces outside of the physical training space. There's plenty of practitioners who try to espouse their knowledge base by over explaining things or talking too much or giving the client too much. And I've told people for years, when you're seeking any kind of practitioner, whether it's a chiropractor, physical therapist, nutrition coach, personal trainer, is you kind of have to like date a little bit. You have to, it's important that you do some background, as much background research on this person as you can, but also meet with them, see if you jive, see if you get along together. And because the general public doesn't really have, like, they're going to seek this counsel, they're going to seek this professional for a reason. They might not have the ability to discern, like, is this a good or bad person? Is this person gonna be able to help me along? But by way of having a conversation with them and connecting with them, you're going to be able to better understand, like, hey, this is a good fit. We vibe together. There's this energetic alignment. So based on your experience and your many years of coaching and leading a coaching company, what's something that you might impart upon somebody looking to vet a new coach? Let's keep it with I'll just keep it open. Somebody who's coming in totally green, doesn't really know. What are some things that you might advise them to do when they are seeking, like, hey, is this a good company? Is this a good person?
Yeah. That's such a good question. I think it provides a really good basis for a shift in beliefs around the nutrition and the health process. That we'll call it just changing someone's health and well-being, and whether it's taking the steps to lose weight or gain muscle or just get healthier and live longer, whatever you want to talk about with respect to the coach. I think for the general population, what we think we need is in many capacities is not what we need, but especially regarding the coach, is we think we need someone who is going to be, and this isn't necessarily not true, but we think we need someone who is rooted in evidence, or they know how to facilitate this process, right? They understand the science of how to create change, regardless of what the change is, right? Maybe they have a certain level of education. Again, I respect this. I agree with this, but this is yet one pillar in what I believe makes a coach a good coach, which is obviously multifactorial. And so instead of simply trying to find someone who can move you from point A to point B by virtue of the X's and O's, the calories and the macros and the sets and the reps, like that's all good and well. But I think you and I would probably agree that that's perhaps the lowest on the totem pole of the priorities when it comes to someone actually creating long-term change, which really is rooted more in behavioral psychology.
Yes.
And the opportunity to actually communicate effectively. And so what actually needs to happen is for there to be a relationship there, for there able to be this synergy that exists between client and coach, and for the prospective client to actually feel like the coach is going, and for the coach to feel like they understand the client enough to be able to, like we were talking about, just the simplicity of the guidance, to be able to move the client in the right direction without needing to overly complicate things. The only way that a coach can do that is by understanding the client, by understanding all of the nuances that exist in each client as an individual human who has different levels of stress and responsibilities and a different lifestyle and different readiness for change and different commitment levels to the process. No one's going to ever go to the gym and train as hard as you or me. No one's ever going to be as obsessive, perhaps, around their calorie intake and the minutia involved around that and just fucking love that process than you or me, right? And so for us to think that our client in any capacity is going to do that is simply, it's just not going to happen. And so instead is for the client to genuinely feel that their coach understands them, right? And doesn't treat them as this binary aspect of you do it this way or you do it this way. Or it's my way or it's the highway.
Right.
Or we have this templatized program that we use for every single one of our clients. And instead is saying, well, okay, you're a busy mother of 3. You're a C-suite executive, who travels 3 days out of every single week. You have all of these injuries that are going to limit your ability to train in the ways in which you likely need to train to get to the goal. So how do we navigate these things? And how do we get creative as a coach to be able to support the client in a way that actually is going to resonate with them? And this goes right back to Tyler having empathy around the process. Like, dude, I mean, I will never be able to be empathetic to a perimenopausal woman. Like, I just don't know. I may not be the best. I might be able to help a perimenopausal woman, but I will never be empathetic to the struggles, that the hot flashes and whatever, all this stuff, right? So you could probably say the same for someone with kids, right? You just don't have kids, like, different lifestyles. It's fine. But that's where that level of empathy, I think, is a necessity. So long answer long is really just actually being able to have that level of connection, because I genuinely think like the education and almost the science is almost the least relevant aspect. And it's hard for me to say that as someone who has so much of their identity tied into their quote unquote accomplishments around the degrees and certifications, when, me just looking at it like, dude, it's not about that stuff. It is about the relationship.
Yes.
And just and how to understand your client better so that you can give them the tools to be successful, that you can teach them to fish, right?
It's a great explanation. And yet the science is important.
Right.
But the relationship is the pathway for the science. because the science by itself, if you just leave it at the science, the client can go look up science, but that's not going to change their behavior.
Obviously,
right?
I mean, dude, let's look at our world, look at our society right now. Like, dude, go look at social media. There's a million ways from Sunday for you to make change.
Yep.
Everyone's telling you how to do it one way, but it's obviously much more complex than that. And it's because of what's happening between our ears.
Yes.
No one's addressing that. And that really comes down to having some guidance, having that trust, that level of support, that empathy to be able to help you move the needle. Because as much as you, this is for the listeners, as much as you quote unquote think you know what to do, you don't, because otherwise you would get the results that you want. And in all likelihood, what you think you need to do, that's the very problem. It's because what you think you need to do is so far above and beyond what you're capable of doing.
Yes.
You're just not seeing the disconnect. You've got an ocean to cross before you'll start doing what you think you need to do. So spot on.
People in general think for any kind of change or for any kind of process, they think, oh yeah, I just need the information. But the information, the science is only a little piece of that puzzle. It's the application, and it's about having somebody who helps you understand what is going on in your life, who you are, what your perceived obstacles, problems, etc. are, and then being able to apply it. That's where real change happens. But because you are so caught up in your own bullshit, you're so immersed in the delusion of your life about who you think you are, what you think is going on around you, what you think is possible. Yeah, you could gather all this information, but you're not going to make those changes because your beliefs are your blind spots. You don't question your beliefs. They're your beliefs for a reason.
Right.
And that's the beauty of having a guide, a coach to come in and help you reveal what those blind spots are and challenge you. And then really help you figure out, okay, here's an opportunity. We could put some of this science, some of this knowledge in and apply it. Cool. Okay, what's the next step now that you did that? And that is the absolute game changer. And I think, with the prevalence of social media and the expansion of social media right now is there's all these, fitness influencers and good-looking people who might be ripped or toned or whatever. And the masses are looking at them thinking, wow, they must know what to do. I should just eat just like them. I should work out just like them and get the same results. Well, that's fool's thinking, unfortunately. And everybody's a fool in their own regard, but that's fool's thinking because that's not your body. That's not your lifestyle. Everything is incredibly different. So all these cookie cutter meal plans and honestly, even like templatized programming for training, you might get some kind of results, but it's not the same. It's not custom to you. And because you have your own inherent obstacles in your own life, like you said, like mother of three who works maybe like full, 50, 60 hours a week, that meal plan and that training template isn't going to work for you.
Right.
That's why it behooves you to hire a coach to come in and really help you factor how to apply these things to your life as an individual. Because these things are written for money, basically, but written for just a very broad audience. And it's specific to nobody.
Dude, it's mind-boggling to me that people think that in any other field, like I'm not going to go out and litigate for myself. I'm not going to go out and do my taxes. I'm not going to teach myself how to play the piano. Like, of course I can try, but how much fucking longer is that going to take?
Yep.
Could I learn how to do it? Yes. It's just in any, like, I'm not going to go fix my air conditioning unit or like my toilets, like call the plumber. Right. And so it's just in any other industry, you wouldn't consider trying to do it yourself. And yet when it comes to health and fitness, it seems like conventional wisdom that you quote unquote should be able to do. I should be able to. Why should you be able to do it yourself? We've been studying this shit our entire lives and it's still confusing and contradictory. We have coaches ourselves, right?
Yep.
Which, by the way, if you're looking for a coach and they don't themselves have a coach, I believe that that's likely a conflict of interest.
Agreed. Flag for me.
Because it tells, they may not realize it, but invariably it means they don't believe in the coaching process.
Yep.
So that's an aside. And so it's simply a matter of like, it would be unreasonable to expect you to be able to make these changes on your own, to say nothing of all of the conflicting and contradictory information out there.
That's true. I didn't even bring that up. That's such a good point.
And so that's just yet another reason why it's like, you should have a coach, you should have a mentor, and it should go well beyond just your health and fitness. It should be in your business and your finances. Obviously you have, an accountant for a reason, and, hopefully a music teacher and a language teacher and whatever it is, a tennis teacher. Like, I think that if people, and probably the type of people that listen to this podcast, and certainly the type of people that we work with, it's like you are obviously, you value your time, you value your worth, you are about being effective and efficient with those things, in which case it seems illogical that you would waste the time and energy, likely money and effort, into trying to do something as grandiose, as seemingly grandiose, as literally changing a lifestyle of habits and behaviors on your own.
Yep.
That are so rooted into you so much deeper than just calories and macros and sets and reps.
Totally.
It's like that's scratching the surface of what is actually required to make change.
Right.
So
and yeah, that's such a valid point. It's so much more than that. And that's where, it's whether it's social media or media in general, is, you can go in line at the grocery store and every women's magazine at the cash register says, lose 30 pounds in 20 days with this diet. And it's been going on for 20, 30 years. It's always the same kind of headlines. And it's no wonder people are so confused, because there's so much information coming out, much of it just based on nonsense to sell. But there's so much information. It's like, how the heck do I discern all this? And I know from my own journey, that's where I was. In 2014, I was like, cool, I've been training for, I guess I'd been training for maybe like 14, 15 years at that point. Never worked with a coach as far as nutrition went. I was like, I can't make sense of any of this. I'm reading a couple blog posts. I was like on T Nation, reading some magazines, and YouTube was still kind of early back then. I was trying to watch YouTube, and I was like, what do I do? Do I do paleo? Do I do, Atkins or Zone, or like, how does this work? And then I ended up finding Trevor Kashey as a coach, and that was a game changer. Like, it really helped, shortcut that process. I got what I'd been trying for years. I got ripped in like 4 months. I was like, holy shit, like this actually works. This is amazing. And when it comes to coaching, I think a big barrier for people who are like hesitant is they don't really understand this is an investment, especially when it comes to coaching for your health, whether it's nutrition, fitness, or the combination of both. Is like, this is one of the best investments you're ever going to make in your health, because if you don't consider it as an investment, where else is that money going to go in regards to your health? Is it going to go to doctor's visits? Is it going to go to medication? Is it going to go to, a whole host of other things? But you putting this money towards this coaching program or individual, whatever it is, you're going to learn so much more about yourself, and you're going to be able to overhaul your life and a whole lifetime of ingrained habits and behaviors that maybe weren't serving you, which is why you started this inquiry in the first place.
You're going to spend it any way you slice it. You're going to spend it regardless, right? And so I agree with you unequivocally. And it's really just a matter of acknowledging what you want out of your life. And I think as we get older, it's a lot easier to justify the quote unquote investment, right? From a financial standpoint of perhaps when we're younger, we're thinking a little more superficially, we're thinking perhaps a little more quick fix.
Yep.
And I think as we get a little bit older, like definitely think about things in terms of investments, and in terms of long-term strategy, in terms of longevity and health. And while there's still, plenty of ego and superficial components at play, it still really is a product of how am I leveraging my time for the biggest, compounding interest on the back end. And, for people, when we talk about investing in a coach, it's like, it's really just a shift in priorities. I mean,
Yes.
the average American is spending well over $500 a month in car payments. I mean, it's just illogical. They're spending, I think that the statistics are like $90 a month on average on Starbucks. They're spending a couple $100 a month in cable TV. I mean, listen, if you are a responsible adult who takes ownership over your decisions, anyone can sit down and audit their time and their finances and find plenty of time and find plenty of opportunities to save more money and allocate it in areas that likely would have a better return on that investment. And health and fitness is really one of those, to say nothing of just the ability to literally increase your life, right? I don't obviously have to convince you of this, but you're going to spend it on the back end if you don't spend it now and then some. But aside from that, it's like, geez, dude, we're in a tough time right now. Like I said, I'm in my mid 40s, so I'm getting sandwiched by my kids, taking care of my kids, but also similarly taking care of our parents, and seeing the repercussions of baby boomers, of the baby boomer pharma, diagnose, prescribe this generation, which is continually getting worse, but of really like the first big generation that's like, well, just do what the doctor says. And it's sort of a diagnose and treat and just take this pill generation, and it's not serving them well. So now we're plagued with a population that is sick and fat. And interestingly, is we don't have as many overweight individuals, but we have significantly more obese individuals than we've ever had in human history. So we're in a really bad spot from a population health standpoint. And this is not just a rant. My point in all of this is saying, listen, it is our civic duty and responsibility, if you value yourself, your time, your energy, your freedom. And like I said, like, we believe that your health determines your freedom. Like, if you don't have your health, what do you have? Right. And so that's part of our mission with our coaching company is really to infuse the tools to help people create that level of freedom in their life by virtue of focusing on their health. And so, like I said, it's not just, Tyler, it's not just saving money on the back end. Of course, it's creating a lot more longevity, a better quality of life. But it's also the aspect of actually challenging yourself with something meaningful that is absolutely going to permeate over into every other area of your life, right?
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And it's like, when you take ownership, I was just telling you about this, of like having these fucking hard conversations, even with yourself, your coach, with yourself on a daily basis, of looking in the mirror and saying, I didn't do good enough today. I can do better tomorrow. I need to do better tomorrow. Here's why it's important to me. How am I going to challenge myself? Because when you do that, and managing your nutrition, managing your training, managing your sleep, managing your hydration, and taking ownership over those vital, literally vital components of your health, forces you to do that to the degree that when you can take ownership over that, well, what can't you take ownership over? Your finances become easier to manage. Yep. You're showing up to the job with more energy. you're showing up more confident, you're attracting the right people into your life. Everything gets better, man. Everything gets better. So it's just exponential, the benefits of that seemingly small investment that so many people are letting them excuses get in the way of them taking action. The car payment, we just paid the car off, or we've got some housework to do. I don't know if, obviously it's something that isn't that important to you then. I don't know many things that are as important, if anything.
I can't think of anything. No.
Right.
Man, I really,
especially my kids' braces.
Wow.
Try and justify that one. That one hurts.
Wow. Man, mic drop on that whole explanation right there. That was beautiful. That was really well said.
Well, I'm obviously passionate about what it is that we do.
Yeah. And for good reason. And once people start to live into that, once people start to get those results and feel those changes and transformation happening in their life, they get passionate too. They're like, oh, I didn't know I could feel this good.
Right.
I didn't know I could think this clear. I didn't know I could move my body in this way. What? This is possible. And like you said, it starts to open, it's exponential. It starts to open up other possibilities for people and other opportunities and new realizations. And life gets a lot richer. Life gets a whole lot richer.
It does, man. It's almost as if you have to be okay going against the grain of everything that's put in front of us, and be so overly proactive about honoring your health and what it takes to be able to do that. Because if you don't, you're going to get caught up in the flow of everything that's leading towards the disease, towards the state of our society. If you're relegated to eating out all of the time, if you're surrounding yourself with the wrong people, if you're watching the news, like, it's just becomes part of who you are, and that's not what you want, in my opinion.
I understand people, I get how people succumb to the seductive pull of comfort, of ease, and of short-term gratification, whether that be food choices, whether that be laying around, sitting around, watching TV, versus stepping to the challenge of like, oh, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go get to the gym. I'm going to show up and do this workout class, or I'm going to maybe challenge myself and try to eat some different foods and cook something different versus ordering something. And all of that, all the things I mentioned, like, doesn't, I'm not saying is like, don't do those things ever, but if your lifestyle looks like that, that's the predecessor for, like you said, dis-ease. That's where it comes from. And people in general are often driven for those short-term dopamine hits or short-term pleasures without being able to take a look at that long-term view. And unfortunately, like, some of them don't know until they know, like, oh, I'm actually making this change. I'm feeling the results. Holy shit. I didn't know this was possible for me. So I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are on some of, I guess, the beliefs that you help people break when they're coming into, let's say, coaching with you or coaching with some of your coaches in your program.
Well, one is that they need to be all or nothing. They need to just restrict everything. It's, well, I've done, okay, so, what's the conversation when we're deciding, right? When we're on a strategy call and we're determining together whether this is the right fit. Invariably, what I hear over and over again is, well, I've lost the weight before. Okay, awesome. How did you lose it? Well, I did keto, I did paleo, I did Whole30, I did Weight Watchers, I did HCG, I'm whatever, like you name it. Okay. And how did that work for you? Well, it worked, but I gained it back. So my question is, did it really work? Well, I suppose it didn't really work. Well, what do you think we need to do now? Well, I could probably go back to doing keto. It's sort of this illogical thought process around, we just don't know any better, but the belief is that we need to just eliminate, right? Well, I need to cut out carbs. I need to cut out sugar. I need to cut out fat. I need to cut out gluten and dairy, whatever. Like, I just need to eat, grass-fed beef, and that's it. Like, and that's not, it's not the solution, because it's not sustainable. So it becomes shifting the beliefs around, okay, well, what if you could actually eat whatever you wanted and still lose weight? How would that make you feel? Well, that would never happen, but amazing, in which case, well, what if we could teach you how to do that? Right? What if you had the freedom to be able to do that? Like, what a fucking mind-blowing opportunity and shift that is.
Yeah.
So I think that in and of itself is one of the biggest components and this is part of what's hard, and this is part of why it's important to have the right coach, is because, and it really is just just layering in everything that we've been talking about the nuances of the coaching process and being an effective teacher and mentor, is because the biggest thing that we can help a client do, the best way that we can help them make change, is by helping them acknowledge that there's no right or wrong way to do this, right? We go into this thinking that we need to white knuckle this process. I'll just drink these shakes. I'll just eat these bars. I'll have my schedule perfectly regimented. He'll give me the perfect training program. It doesn't exist, man. It just doesn't. Especially now, let's factor in kids, stress, job, travel, injuries, sick parents, sick kids, whatever. Like, this is the human reality. And I think once people can accept that there is no level of perfection, there's just the best that they can do under the circumstances, and that the only way that they're going to do the best that they can is by having the tools and learning the skills and behaviors necessary to consistently make better decisions.
Yes.
How do I make the best decision under the circumstances? But what does that require? It requires autonomy.
Yeah.
And I can't have autonomy if I'm relegated to a meal plan that says eat chicken and broccoli 6 times a day, and you need to do upper body on Monday and lower body on Tuesday. It's like, no. It's okay to do upper body on Tuesday and lower body on Thursday, and half of upper body if that's all that you have time for. And what if we had an alternative to do a home workout on days when the shit hits the fan and you only have 20 minutes and you can't make it to the gym? And what do I do when it goes off the rails? And I take a step back, and I say, wow, I just did some damage. I just ate the nachos and drank the beers, and I don't feel great about myself. And how do I deal with those circumstances? Because it's going to happen. And how do we use that as a learning opportunity to then make a better decision next time? And then just focus on the next meal. Well, I'll just make a better decision at the next meal, right? It's like, that's where we have to rid ourselves of this binary, this dichotomous thinking, right? And learn to live in the gray. And it's challenging. And that's good, right? It should be challenging because it's going to create growth. It's going to help us learn how to behave as individuals. And as we say, in our business, is how to become your own best nutrition detective. Like, how do we start to think in ways that we know we're going to be able to support the goals that we have in mind. That factors in all of the responsibilities and potential obstacles that lie in our path. That's when you truly have autonomy over the process. That's when you truly are going to become the type of person that that has the results that you want.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So I guess that was a lot all regarding sort of the restrictive mindset, but I genuinely believe that that's the biggest belief shifting component that's necessary in all aspects of kind of the coaching process. And, fundamentally is just thinking long-term.
Yeah, that too.
Right? It's like, hey man, I'm just gonna be straightforward with you. This is not a 3 or 6 month or even a year-long process. Like you said, you want to lose fat. You said you want to gain muscle. You want to, you're metabolically deranged. Blood pressure's high. Lipids are out of control. Like this is something we really is going to take a multifactorial approach, and this is going to take some time. You need to be okay with that, with the systematic process of just kind of focusing on one thing at a time and peeling the layers back of the onion that's formed of your life over 45 years.
Yep.
You're not going to do this in a 6-month shred. I hate to tell you.
Or a 12-week. Goodness.
Or a 12-week or 6-minute apps. So, man, it is, Tyler. It's we have a lot of opportunity with what we do to shift beliefs, to change the culture around health and fitness, and to speak against the conventional wisdom, which clearly is flawed.
Man, you're such a good speaker, such a wonderful, articulate speaker. And I really admire that about you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And for everyone listening, I highly encourage you, whether you work with a coach or not, especially if not, but even if you do, I'll challenge you with this, is to write down, what does autonomy mean for me? And explore that. Think about all the aspects of your life. What does autonomy mean for me in your relationships, in your personal health, in your business career? What does that look like? And as you start to dive into that and travel down all those different paths about what's possible and get crystal clear on that, I think it's going to really highlight all these opportunities available for you. And again, if you're not working with a coach in some regard right now, and you never have, or even if you have, it's such a catalyst for change. And like we talked about earlier, it's so important in being able to help you shortcut that process versus trying to go at it on your own and dissect all this conflicting information that's at our fingertips and that's being pressed upon us from every angle. And yeah, I mean, this belief you just flipped is so powerful and profound. And I really hope everybody listening is able to sit with that for a bit and envision their lives and what that might look like for you, especially with where you're at right now, what your reality looks like and the results that you're currently getting. Because I can almost guarantee that there is space for so much change. And there are people out there that want to help you. Like my man, Ben.
Amen to that.
Ben, you're an absolute rock star. This has been a long time coming. I'm so glad we finally did this.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you had me on your show, I guess maybe like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Been a little while, and I've been meaning to get you on. I'm super happy we sat down today and made this happen. And I'm definitely going to want you on for part 2 if you're open to that.
Always happy. Always love talking shop with you, man.
Yeah,
it really is. Obviously, I love talking about this stuff. Obviously, I'm passionate about it. I feel an overwhelming responsibility for what it is that we do and the power that we have at our fingertips to affect change. And I'm just grateful for those of you that stuck around for the whole conversation. Thank you for taking time out of your day to tune in.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Ben, what do you have going on right now? How can people find out more about you and what you do and your business? Where can they connect?
Yeah. Our website is BSLNutritionMadeSimple.com. Social media is at BSL Nutrition, so you can find us on Instagram. And we have a free private Facebook group, our Smart Nutrition Made Simple community. I think you can just go to smartnutritionmadesimple.com to go right to the Facebook group, as well as a podcast that you were on, Tyler. That's the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show on, well, everywhere where podcasts are found, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, give me a follow, shoot me a message. Always happy to answer questions and have a conversation and see what we can do to support you. So again, thanks for having me, dude. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being here, man. And again, I really admire you as a human being and your mission and what you're doing for the world. It's incredible. You're incredible.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Keep up the good work.
All right. Thanks for listening, folks. We will catch you next time.